to add this to the stage. Okay, we are jumping in live, ready to go. I was trying to see if I could grab AJ so we could talk about the market since he is the money man with Sports.fun/NFL. However, it looks like he's tied up right now. So if that changes sometime in the next 20, 30 minutes, I'll get AJ on to join us. What I want to be able to do. What's up, Wilder? Good to see you, man. What I'd like to be able to do is kind of walk through the market. I was probably a little more active in the Discord than I should have been today because I noticed some of the whales decided to front run some of the strategy. What are you going to do? So anyway, we're going to jump in here. Bear with me. I'm changing screens. Okay. So now we have all three phases out. All the players are out in the market. How are things going to go? Now, one thing I thought was really interesting the first day is that, and I think I can actually share this with you. Let me see. There's a lot going on my end with my spreadsheets, but let me see if I can do this. You're going to see me. Okay, you can. Great. All right. So this is the tracking that I was doing after phase one, the drop on Tuesday. And one thing you'll notice here is that the red is typically the areas where players are peaking. So if you want to sell, those are the areas you want to sell them. I had Patrick Mahomes peaking at 0.21. I believe some people said he went as high as 0.24. And then the green areas, that's typically where you want to buy guys. So not a lot of green here on Tuesday. A little bit like Gadonze here, but obviously that went sideways. Now things have changed a little bit. These numbers on phase one have not been updated since Thursday morning. So what would look like a good price for a player to buy from a Tuesday drop is definitely not looking like a good price right now, because what we've seen is the market gradually start to dip down. And I think that's going to be a few things. I'm going to talk about that briefly. But from a 24-hour window, these were the best times to be able to buy and to be able to sell. Phase two, this was our Thursday drop, and it went completely different. And the reason why is this. If you look at phase one, you'll notice that what happened here was we had a bunch of red that happened right away. So if you can look at all the red, this is pretty much how I believe most people thought it was going to flow, right? We were going to have that quick window to buy, prices were going to jump, and we weren't sure how things were going to kind of play out over the next 45 minutes. We knew guys were going to sell. We needed to dump a few guys or reallocate or whatever you wanted to be able to do. And then at the minute after the power hour, when everything opened up to the Gen Pop, we expected this spike. And that's what we got on Tuesday. So we got this big spike. Guys like, let me actually expand this for you so you can see how dramatic it was. So we had this huge spike happen where Mahomes was over 0.2, and Prescott and Goff and Mayfield were all over 0.05. Goff and Mayfield even got over into 0.06. Bijan hit 0.14. This was 3 minutes in. So it's a little wild. So while I was doing the stream, I wasn't able to be overly active. However, one thing I was able to do is go back into the stream and look at the pricing. So what we found is that in that first 5 minutes was the best sale opportunity. So heading into Thursday, it seemed as though, okay, there's a strategy here. The strategy is everybody knows you're trying to buy guys within the first minute, the studs. You're trying to buy the studs in the first minute, and then you essentially have the next 58 minutes to try to figure out when are the guys that you're trying to dump, when's the best time to dump them based on the penalty fee. So on Thursday, that time was basically between the 15% fee. So for me, I'm in Arizona, so we're on Mountain Standard Time. So it opens up at 10 o'clock. I'm trying to buy whoever I want. And then you've got the 10:15 window. I ran into the issue where my account wasn't syncing. So I wasn't able to jump in and make those quick purchases right away at lower price points. What's up, Phoenix Scribe? Good to see you. Good morning. Good afternoon. In my case, it is now 12:35 in beautiful Arizona this time of year. And then we're kind of waiting, right? Because the first day on Tuesday, we're kind of waiting. When's the best time to sell these guys with the penalty? Well, we figured out it was actually in that 15% phase. You kind of go in the 10% phase, but guys start dropping pretty hard. And if you get to the 5% phase, it doesn't really matter at that point because at 3%, everybody's just going to dump it anyway. So Tuesday, that sell window for studs was the first 2 minutes, and then second tier guys was the next 3 minutes. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of like, hey, dump everything and take your money out. I think it's more about reallocation. So if you can dump guys, if you can sell at the peaks and you can buy in the valleys, that's ideal when you're managing the market, which is a completely different game than actually managing the players and trying to finish on podiums. But you're trying to do your best here. So we saw the trend on Tuesday. The trend on Thursday was completely different, right? A lot of us got wrecked. We were anticipating that trend. We noticed that, the best time to sell was actually in that second 15-minute phase. And even if you bought guys in that first 15-minute phase, a lot of times you were buying at peak. So you'll notice actually on mine, like I bought Herbie at 0.0241 and now he's at like 0.015. I bought Caleb Williams at 0.0172, which I felt like was a solid number. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, this is a solid number because we saw Baker and Goff and Dak go over 0.05. So if I'm buying Caleb at 0.0172, I should be able to at least get 0.04. And that obviously did not happen. Sorry, I got a little itch. So I got McCaffrey. I got McCaffrey in the initial first 2 minute phase. And then most of these guys I just picked up a little later, and they were a little more. You can see I sold some guys. I sold Bucky. I sold Warren. I sold Dobbins. I sold Andrews. I ended up selling more guys later. Wilson. You kind of see this at the bottom. I sold May a little high right before the game started. I sold Diggs during the game. And then after the game, I ended up selling, before I went to bed, basically, I sold Goddard and I sold McCaffrey. That looks pretty good today, but last night I was anticipating things were going to start to drop down a little bit, and they did. This was the big difference yesterday. We basically had a sell peak that happened for everybody at 10:20 in that second 15-minute quadrant. And then when 11:01 hit, when we were anticipating everything to go nuts, it didn't go nuts. And a bunch of guys started dumping in that first 30 minutes when Gem Pop had access. So you're seeing best times to buy guys like Caleb Williams. He went down to 0.012. Drake May went down to 0.0256, which not having a good fantasy performance last night, he's back down there. But let's see. CeeDee Lamb was at 0.0208. Nico Collins has actually only dropped more since, but we're seeing a ton of sell pressure here. And then it kind of tapered off. I got frustrated about noon with the market because it just didn't trend the way we were expecting it to. And I was like, I got to take a break. I got to take a minute here. So I stepped away, came back, looked at the market. Part of this, by the way, is not colored in, and that's actually my fault because I was I kept trying to add columns and the conditional wasn't coming. So, or I should say conditional formatting wasn't coming along with me. So let's move to today, right? Because today is really what we cared about. We dove in today. You guys will notice my chart is useless. And let me show you why. This is actually my chart right now. which is terrible, right? But my power went out. So my goal was to make sure that I had, if you look at the highlights, the green guys are my buy targets. The red guys were my sell targets. I made sure I sold all these guys who were red in that second 15-minute quadrant. That worked out really well for me. I really wish I had these sales numbers here, but here, let's take a quick look. You guys can't see this right now because you're looking at my spreadsheet. And that's okay. So the guys I wanted to sell, I sold. I sold Genty. I bought Genty, and I don't know. I bought Genty. I sold Shakir. Boom. I sold Shakir here for 0.00915, which I did not love, but had to do it. I sold Gadsden. I tried. He got up to like 0.014 at one point. I tried to ditch him. It didn't work. I don't know why this thing is being stubborn, but we'll get it there. Kincaid. Where did I sell Kincaid? I sold Kincaid at 0.00957. Pittman. Love Pittman. I felt terrible selling him, but that's just the way it goes. It's just business, sir. It's just business. I did not want to sell Zay Flowers, but I just had to do it. And the reason why I sold these guys, and what you might be thinking is like, man, you sold a bunch of these guys. You sold a bunch of your players. And the reason why is because at that point in the phase, it just seemed as though it was only going to go down more. So I'd rather sell a guy like Chase Brown at close to a penny and buy him back at 0.8 of a penny. So that's why I said, all right, it's time to go. There's Kamara, 781. Omario Hampton, who I really didn't want to sell, but he was running pretty hard. And then DeAndre Swift, who was highly unpopular. I ditched him. I ditched Bo at 0.013. So the reason why I wanted to fill this in real quick is because we're going to look at the market. And when I look at this market, let me change screens so that way we're both looking at the market at the same time. Click, 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 click. Okay, so now we can both look at the market at the same time. So how did this play out for me? Let's refresh. Let's get a new market cap. Okay, market cap is at 5.09 right now. I guess it peaked at 516. So we had a 548 market cap yesterday. We're at 516. So 5.48 may be our top market cap for a while. I know that Adam made a post on Twitter regarding it took 18 days and then I guess soccer kind of blew up. I don't know if that's going to happen here. I'm assuming it's not going to happen, and we just need to do our best at reallocating assets where we want them and then just writing for the season. But, we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. So let's see the guys that I moved. I'm looking at this for the first time in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go a little slow just because I want to see what's going on. Now, by the way, you're going to notice that I've got a bunch of players that are in the top that are going to be on the front page that I already sold. And the reason why, so I bought 320 packs. I had every player. I sold Mahomes around 9 cents. The reason why I sold Mahomes is not that he's not great. It's just that I felt that there was going to be some sell pressure on him. And there was. He needed to come back down to earth. So what I wanted to be able to do was sell him at 9 cents on Wednesday night, reallocate those resources into the Thursday drop and take advantage of that. So that worked out well for me. I sold McCaffrey yesterday. I'd have to look and see what I sold him at. I think I sold him right around 0.05. And the reason why I sold McCaffrey is because I thought there was too much distance from McCaffrey and the rest of the group. And although McCaffrey is a stud, and I think you could argue that he's been the most productive player in our format, I don't know that he's going to be able to do that in the second half. And I felt like there was too much gap there. And if I could buy 4 times the amount of Gentry shares for what I'm paying for McCaffrey, I felt like it was worth the risk. So I sold McCaffrey. I feel like Puka Nacua is in that same boat where there's just too much space between him and the next receiver, which is Amon St. Brown at 0.306. I sold Amon last night because I felt like there was too much separation between him and guys like Justin Jefferson. So that's kind of how that's playing out. I didn't sell Allen today. I was able to get in on Jackson early. I think, what was that, 0.024? But as we start to look here, like Jefferson's down 0.01 from where he was at a couple days ago. I think Chase right there. When you look at, I actually view Chase as the number one receiver for me the rest of the way. However, the likelihood that the Bengals don't get in the playoffs is very good. So I'm looking at Chase like he's basically just a half-season guy. He's not going to be a postseason guy like Amon St. Brown is. He's not going to get those extra games. So he definitely needs to produce during that time frame. Bowers is dropping, and I don't think Bowers is dropping because he's not good. Bowers is dropping because there is a massive discrepancy in price between Bowers and the rest of the tight ends. Bowers and McBride are basically the two guys who should be there should be price discrepancy between Bowers with McBride and then probably Warren and Kittle and then the rest of the tight ends. There should be a huge price discrepancy because Bowers and McBride are just going to be that good. One of them is going to land on the podium, if not both of them, every single week if they're healthy. Kittle's back healthy right now. We'll see how long that lasts. He had a nice week. He did land on the podium. Warren is a guy who's landed on the podium, I believe, 5 times this season. So let me do a quick check, and I can fact check myself here in real time. So yeah, Warren has finished on the podium 5 out of 10 weeks. McBride has finished 4 out of 10 weeks. Bowers has been hurt, but he does have 2 first-place finishes. Kittle just came back. He finished second. So I'm good to just roll with those 4 guys, honestly. But I think what you're seeing is Bowers is getting some pull pressure down to be able to get more in line with those players. That's what's happening. I almost sold Bowers when he was dropping because I noticed that pressure that was coming. I didn't. I held on to him, and I'm good to ride him because I think what's going to happen here is you're going to see some pull pressure to bring his price down, and then he's going to perform on Monday night, and people are going to go, "Oh my gosh, I got to get Bowers," and then we'll see that pressure, a lot of buy pressure going upward with Bowers. I love where Hurts is at right now. One thing I like to do to make this a little easier, let me finish one thing, and then I'm going to show you guys what I'm actually looking at in the market right now. And the one thing I want to show you is the guys that I was talking about dumping and kind of how that played out in real time. So we look here. So I dropped Gadsden at, what was I able to sell him? I sold Gadsden at 0.00117. He dropped all the way down to 0.00876. He's gotten purchased. He's back up 0.001. But that was a win today. Waddle, who I did not want to sell, I sold him for 0.0101. He's at 0.00968. He dropped. He got pretty low as far as 0.00885. So he's up almost 0.01. Chase Brown, I was able to sell for 0.0098. Not much of a difference there. I am going to buy more Nico Collins. I'll tell you that right now. I've already got 50,000 shares of Nico Collins. He is my most invested player. he is a perfect boom bust kind of guy. I know Stroud is out this week, but he had 12. But even though Stroud's still out, Nico had 12 targets or 13 targets last week. He had a really nice game, and he finished in the top 5. If Stroud comes back and Collins is healthy, he's a guy who can podium any single week. And I feel like from a value standpoint, Collins is likely the best value buy right now at what I would consider the most volatile position at wide receiver. I love Adunze here. I bought Adunze and I bought Collins on I bought Collins and Brown on Tuesday. They both moved down considerably since then. I'll likely stock up a little more. And you're noticing, like right here, there's a ton of sell. I've already ditched most of these guys. And it's not that they're not good players. I'm just trying to reallocate. I'd rather sell guys like Olave and then buy Nico Collins because I feel like the upside is there. Metcalf, there's Pittman at 0.08. And for those of you who have friends who are like kind of thinking about getting in and they know football, everything feels cheap right now. I mean, there's a ton of guys who are available under what we paid pack prices for. So people shouldn't be too worried about like, well, gosh, I didn't get it on packs. Pricing is really low. I mean, you can get Jalen Hurts for basically double the price of the pack value. Excuse me, that's nothing. So let's see. I sold Pittman at 0.0098. He's at 0.0080. That's a big win. Let's see who else was in there. Kincaid. I dumped Kincaid at 0.0096. He's at 0.00676. That is way too many O's to say. So I dumped Thomas at 91. He's at 72. That's a big win. I dumped Zay at 88. He's at 70. Another win. So the strategy finally worked. I don't need to run through every single one. I will run through Shakir, though, because I sold him at 92. He's at 66. Wow. DeAndre Swift is at 60. Now, here's the thing with DeAndre Swift. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is not advice. This is not like I'm not necessarily prognosticating, but here's what I want to say. I'm going to buy on DeAndre Swift when I'm done with this stream. And the reason why I'm going to is not that I think DeAndre Swift is like a podium type guy. Not that he couldn't get there. It's just that he's an injury prone guy and he's on a playoff team. And we saw when he was out, Minagi went nuts. And for 0.006, I'm tempted to buy him right now while I'm just streaming. But let's say I decided to buy 20,000 shares of Swift right now. That's only $126. And that gives a lot of opportunity. There's only 1.8 active million shares. So when we finish this, I'm going to buy a bunch of DeAndre Swift shares. And just so we're clear, you guys can see I have 0 DeAndre Swift shares. So it's not like I'm pumping the guy. This isn't a Gary Vee situation where I'm like, you got to get this guy. Like, go get Pacheco. I haven't sold my Pacheco shares, but go get Pacheco. Let's bump him up so I can use you as my exit. I am genuinely going to buy DeAndre Swift shares after we're done with this because they're just way too low. Now, with that being said, let me show you what I'm looking at right now in the market. And if you guys, I apologize, I'm not doing a good job of paying attention to the stream here. Wilder, you overpaid. That's okay. Pretty much we've all overpaid for everything. However, the exciting thing is when we look, so full disclosure, I think I told you guys I bought 320 packs. I put a little extra cash in there. But, right now my portfolio's worth 10K. So if I decided I wanted to just dump everything right now, I'd be up $3,000. So I'm not going to complain the fact that everything is cheap and maybe I got wrecked a little bit on Thursday. Maybe I'll complain a little bit. But what we thought we were getting into on Tuesday was not what we were getting into on Thursday. So most of us that got wrecked on Thursday, it's because we won big on Tuesday. So I think that makes it a lot easier to digest. And today we had a pretty good idea of where we were getting into. So most of us had a relatively conservative strategy. There were some whales who front ran us, so we weren't able to take advantage of prices on guys like Chase at 0.0264 or Jackson at 0.0267. Those guys just front run us, and that's unfortunate. If we weren't in on that buy, like Jackson right now is 0.04. So, and I think that's more in line with where he should be. But you'll notice, like, I've been watching Gibbs. I'm probably going to end up buying a bunch more Gibbs, a bunch more Lamb. We'll kind of have to watch how that plays out. But let me. I need to get there, and the prices need to come. It's kind of a meeting of the minds when my buy price and the market price kind of gets together. But let me show you what I'm looking at right now and why this is. If you want to follow the market like I do, this is how I'm thinking. So we're going to look at position players, and I'll look at tight ends first because I was explaining the whole thing with Bowers and McBride. So Bowers is the best tight end for fantasy in football right now. McBride is a close second. Assuming all things are equal, that's where I would rank them. However, here's the challenge. It almost seems like Geno Smith doesn't know how to throw to Bowers sometimes. The fact that he went off 2 weeks ago and then last week he was radio silent is a Geno Smith situation. McBride is a guy who's a target machine with Kyler Murray, but disappears in the red zone. Well, we've seen with Jacoby Brissett in there, it's not the same dude. He's a target machine, but he also is great in the red zone. So for a guy like McBride, these two, they're 1 and 1A for me. I think Warren is underpriced. I've tried to buy more Warren. Let's see. So I'm up to 21,000 shares on Warren. I think I was fortunate enough to rip 13,000. But I look at Warren and Kittle. I should also have a decent amount of shares of Kittle. I did buy Kittle yesterday, which I felt was a great price at the time. I got wrecked on Kittle. What did I buy him at? 0.0225. And Kittle's now at 0.0131. Terrible. So I tried to make sure, you guys can tell, I sold all these bottom end guys that I didn't really have confidence in. And with tight ends, I'm just going to roll with 4 or 5 each week. It's just that simple. I do think that we're seeing Bowers come down. He will likely come down a little bit more. He's probably going to end up meeting McBride closer to 0.025, but I'm not going to sell him at this point. I've got 16,000 shares, 17,000 at McBride. I'm good with that. And keep in mind, from a strategy standpoint, the tight ends receive less of the prize pool. So if your quarterback finishes first, he gets 12%. Your tight end finishes first, he gets 8%. You need to account for that accordingly. So if you haven't already, and I know I mentioned that on the stream before when PSU fans came on, when Sean came on, but that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So what I do is I'm just going to plan. I know Warren has a bye this week, by the way. The Colts and the Saints have a bye this week. So I'm going to end up rolling with Laporta, Kittle, Bowers, and McBride. I might, if Gadsden Price drops down enough, I was planning on using him, but it's got to drop down. Realistically, Gadsden needs to be around the 0.008 number for me to jump in on him. But that's what I'm looking at. So when I look here at running backs, I'm going, okay, McCaffrey seemed a little high for where his price was at, and he had too much separation. So I sold him. And then when Taylor started jumping up and it was close to McCaffrey, I sold him. And part of the strategy with Taylor is a little different. And the reason why is because I noticed last night that the market is very reactionary. Taylor is on a bye week this week. So a lot of people who don't realize he's on a bye week are going to start getting, they're going to try to reallocate resources. So they're going to start dumping Taylor, and we should see some sell pressure on Taylor as he drops back down. And then we'll see some buy pressure next week when he gets purchased, or when he's going to play. I love Gibbs right now. I'm going to buy Gibbs. I was contemplating all night selling Cook and selling Gibbs and Cook were much closer. I don't even think that was last night. That might have been earlier today. I was going to sell Williams. I was going to sell Cook. I didn't. I did sell Jacobs. And then I bought in today with Henry and Gentry. And you can see how they've moved. I was able to buy some Henry and Gentry at less than 0.01, which is going to make up for me buying them in the first round. Rico Dowdle, great matchup this week. I have not sold him. He's one of the guys down here. You'll notice I've sold everybody else. I did not sell him. I've got 10,000 shares. I'll probably buy 10,000 more shares and roll him into this week because I think he can finish top 5. I should have a decent amount of Gentry shares, 31. I was really tempted to buy a ton. I'm surprised Gentry's up where he's at right now. He's up like 0.03, 0.003. But I was planning on buying a ton of Gentry shares when he was under a penny, because I've been trying to identify certain players at that I'd like to end up getting like 50,000 shares of, because that's a lot of shares for me in my bag. I know it's all relative, but for me, having 50,000 shares of a guy is a ton. Most of the guys I have are like 10 to 15, maybe 20,000 shares. But I'm trying to have a couple home run hitters that if I have 50, maybe even 100,000, if the price gets right and they pop, then I'm able to take advantage of that. So you see Hampton's gone up. Hampton was as low as 0.00785, and now he's a penny. So there's definitely been some buy pressure on some of these guys right now. So that's the strategy. Anyway, that is the strategy. So we saw that at quarterbacks, we saw it at tight ends. We saw it at running backs. I sold Puka. I think Puka is way overpriced for the rest of the market. So if I see a guy who just seems overpriced in the market, St. Brown was before, these guys have got to come back to earth. So I'm taking advantage of that pricing right now, and I'll just buy him back later. Where are we at here? And then you're looking at opportunities, right? Like I think Nico Collins, Adunze is a great opportunity right now. I have not been holding Sutton for any reason, besides the fact that I missed out selling him for 0.0125 earlier. So what I'll probably end up doing today is just, I don't think I have that many shares, 6,500 shares of Sutton. So I'll probably just buy those. I'll sell those 6,500 and end up buying like Nico Collins or buying a Adunze with it. I might even have Waddle's got a great matchup this week, so I might end up just buying Waddle if he starts to drop. So what I'm gonna look for, and what you guys can look for right now, over the course of the next 48 hours, is the guys who typically should go down the most are going to be guys that were in this last drop. So Europe, Asia is going to wake up. They're going to see the pricing. They're going to dump guys, and we're going to see like a slowly. There's going to be the word I'm looking for, progressional. That is not a word. I'm looking for a progressive drop slowly for guys who are in this last drop, but it's going to, how am I going to do this here? The guys who are already in the drop Tuesday, Thursday are dropping like this. The guys who are in the drop today are going to drop like this. So what's going to happen here, we're going to get that. So there's going to be buying opportunities for guys who dropped. You'll see a slow progression of guys who dropped on Tuesday and Thursday, but it's going to be more dramatic for guys who dropped today. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for. One thing that was interesting, and for those who play on the soccer side, I have not been exposed to this, but I was last night. I sold Drake May for, let me switch over real quick to quarterbacks. I was able to sell Drake May at 0.0348 right before the game. I didn't expect him to have a bad game, but he had a bad game fantasy points wise, not real football wise, but fantasy points wise. And he dropped a penny, more than a penny. And now you can buy him back at 0.0233, which I will. I will buy back on Drake May after he starts to go down because I like his matchups the next couple weeks. However, that is kind of that's the key to the market, right? So we're playing two games. We're playing the market game, and then we're playing making sure that we've got guys to be able to win tournament points, to turn those tournament points into packs, and then redistribute our shares. So that was one thing I noticed. Henderson also, I think I bought him at, I initially bought him pretty high. Let's see where I got him. 0.0154. And then I was able to get him again in the range of like under 0.13. And then he pops off, has a great game, and jumps up to 0.0174. So, it's interesting to see he jumped up almost a half cent. But we're going to, and he might end up, what's interesting is he has a decent shot to land in first place. He's definitely going to land on the podium with what he did yesterday. So that's exciting if you've got Henderson and you were able to play shares yesterday. I know I'm kind of having a little issue with being able to like lock in my active roster, but I think I figured it out yesterday. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I just kind of wanted to review the market, give you guys some strategy. I'm not going to go over like projections and guys I think are going to have great weeks. I know I've been dropping a couple nuggets here in regards to like, hey, this guy has a soft matchup this week, just to keep that in mind. Or, hey, the next 2 weeks, like these guys have soft matchups. So if you do want to take advantage of those things, I have personally looked at all that. I guess I could show you super quick. Can I though? No, let's wait on that. So I went through and projected out for the next 3 weeks. So that way I'm looking at guys going, okay, these are good guys to buy right now because I'm going to be able to use them in the next couple weeks versus just living for the moment. And I think that's how most of the market is. So we'll find out, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty reactionary. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions, hit me up on the Discord. I'm aced out. You can also follow me on Twitter at BestBallerAce. I'm happy to jump in, answer questions, hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your success stories and your failures. We're all in this together. I got crushed yesterday. I did okay today. It is going to be one day at a time as we follow the market and pick our starters. But the exciting thing is now we can focus on actually playing the game. The market stuff's all done. We're going to see some moves here and there, but for the most part, the exciting part is we can just play fantasy football with each other now. And I think that'll be a ton of fun. So hope you guys have a great one. I'll catch up with you next week.